Welcome to the Strategic Veteran, where we chart the course from service to civilian triumph. I'm Adam Peters, a veteran, entrepreneur, and your fellow navigator in the quest for a life of impact and fulfillment. My mission is simple: to empower you with the tools and stories that turn challenge into opportunity. Having walked the path from active duty to where I stand now, I understand the search for purpose that comes with hanging up the uniform. It's a path I've walked, with its trials, its tribulations, and its victories, and it's a journey we're on together. This podcast is more than just conversation. It's a beacon for those seeking to redefine our missions through entrepreneurship. It's about igniting the entrepreneurial spirit that lives within us, the spirit that compels us to create, lead, and make our mark on the world. Here we connect with veterans who have built businesses, sparked change, and found their purpose in the marketplace of ideas. They're not just surviving, they're thriving. They've transformed their service into startups, their experiences into enterprises, and they're proof that you can too. So whether you're scribbling business plans on napkins or stepping into the arena of innovation, remember, you're not alone. You're in good company. So let's explore these stories of transformation and take the first steps together on our path to purpose. Let's begin. Awesome. Welcome back to the Strategic Veteran, coming to you live from Phoenix, Arizona at Arizona Organics. And I'm happy to introduce to you JMach, the host of the JMach podcast. And he's gracious enough to let us use his studio to do this live in-person podcast. So let's give him a big round of applause. And man, dude, thanks for everything right now, dude. It's exciting.
Yo, it's my pleasure. It is exciting. It's going to be the first time I'm in the hot seat on my own couch. So.
Yeah, how does that actually feel?
No different right now except for you asking questions. However, it's in the back of my head that I'm not in charge here, so I'm probably a little nervous. I just don't want to admit it.
Well,
but it's excitement, not nerves, all right?
Well, let's just jump right in, man. Let's talk about a little bit about where you grew up and what inspired you to join the Marine Corps.
Thank you for your support, brother. I did 7 years in the Army. Oh, thank you for your service.
Hey, come tell us who you are. Come on, man. No, for real. Look, dude, this is just it. I'm the Strategic Veteran, and my goal is to help veterans transition.
I swear to God, I'm cool. So I just want to say thank you guys, too.
Awesome. We appreciate you. Have a great day.
Anyway, man, dude, let's jump right in and talk about where you grew up and what inspired you to join the Marine Corps.
Yeah, so I was born in Illinois, in a small country area. I actually love that lifestyle. Growing up, I learned that there's quite a difference between a fast-paced life, we'll say the West Coast, to the Midwest lifestyle, and I love the Midwest lifestyle. I always wanted to join the military. I always thought that was cool. My dad was always watching war movies, John Wayne, stuff like that, and my father always wanted to, and he became a police officer, and so that was going to be my route. But instead of waiting until I was 21, I waited till I was 23 and joined the Marine Corps. Part of that reason is because I felt like I could get a job in law enforcement, but if anything were to go wrong, I feel like it would have fell back on my dad because he would have helped me get there, and I wanted to do it on my own. So I joined the Marine Corps. I just feel like it's always been within me to serve and protect. Like, that's just my calling in life. For sure.
Why the Marine Corps? Why not the Army, the Air Force, the Navy, the Coast Guard?
Easy. I got a big ego and a big pride. It's probably not for the best, but we did have the sexiest uniforms.
You do. I can't argue that because, man, those dress blues.
Yes, sir.
Crispy.
The panty droppers, as they're called.
And you guys, how do you get swords?
Swords, you got to be an NCO.
That's just it? Be an NCO?
I mean, I got mine for a schooling to corporal's course when we have to train and do drill with the sword. I never returned it.
So you stole it?
No, it's still signed out to me. I just signed out of the Marine Corps. And in the Marine Corps, there's no stealing. It's called tactically acquiring.
Right. We don't steal anything.
Gear adrift is a gift indeed.
Right. No, I remember before I joined looking at the Marine uniforms, I was like, the only reason I want to be a Marine is because you guys get swords, and that's really cool.
Right.
Anyway, so where did you end up going in the Marine Corps? What was your MOS?
1371. I was a combat engineer. When I hit the fleet out of the schoolhouse, I got attached to the division side, so I did more explosives and breaching, although that was only in prac-dap world. I never got real-life scenarios, which is a blessing, but something I had to work towards realizing it was a blessing.
Yeah, it's a blessing in that I'm sure you probably agree with this, that you saved your brain from a lot of trauma that it doesn't need to go through, huh?
I just put it through different trauma. I've never looked at it that way, so I can't agree with you, but I'm sure you're correct, right? When I tell my story, I always try to start off with like, hey, I didn't see combat, I didn't go on any deployments, because that's where I feel like I lack. That's where my insecurity comes from for being a proud veteran. Well, what did you do? Nothing.
Well, so why are you insecure about that?
Because as we're talking, I have a flashback of like being a fucking kid at a fair, working a booth, and the guy next to me, I don't know what he was actually did in his real life or before what he was doing there, but we were talking about the military, and I was like, yeah, I always think it'd be so cool to be in that branch that nobody knows about but exists. Like, it's out there, and I'm sure you know the branch too. So I always thought that was cool. I always thought getting into the action was the fun, and like if you're going to join, you're going to fight for your country. And I joined during wartime, and I didn't fight for my country. And as we were talking about on my podcast prior, that I said that I feel like I was a little bit more than a GP Marine, general population, but I could have been so much more. I just didn't have the mental skill set yet.
For sure.
So I feel like that holds me back because I know my potential and what I could have done. However, grass isn't greener, and I could not be here anymore. And that's something I need to realize. So I would have, like, I don't know if you want to call it imposter syndrome or what. I feel like I've been using that word a lot these past 2 days, so I don't want to use that. But I feel like I failed. I did not complete the mission that I set out to do. It was a fight to join the Marine Corps, whether it was against my parents because they didn't want me to, or my physical fitness because I was out of shape. I actually almost joined the Army. However, the girl that I was working out with, she was shocked at how out of shape I was, and she didn't understand it. Like, bitch, this me my whole life, you know me. Like, I can't run for shit. And it was actually the Marine Corps not drone instructor. I'm nervous on your fucking show, dude.
We just did an hour on your show together, and
your show. I'm not the boss anymore. No, but yeah, it was actually the Marine Corps recruiter. He didn't give up on me. I told him, like, look, I need to go back home and work out myself before I start coming to these PTs. Like, I'll be the fattest one here, but I ain't going to be in the worst shape. So I lost 70 pounds in 6 months to enlist in the Marine Corps, lost like another 20 in boot camp, and that was the only time I hit my max weight. I was always over it throughout the entire Marine Corps, but I always taped out because I had muscles at that time. Yeah. I had fucking huge neck, probably saved me.
Yeah, I always taped out too. I never fuck the damn weight scale. They're bullshit anyway, right? Like at 6'3", they tell me I should weigh like 195. Fuck you, like not happening.
Yeah.
But I would argue that you shouldn't question your service or feel guilty or like you didn't complete the mission, because you still did something that only 1% of the population does, and you did it with the intention to go to war.
Right. I just see all the things, all my little hiccups, all where I messed up that I could have potentially did something, or I could have stayed in to go on a deployment, but I was already checked out mentally and out of SIF. Wasn't about to go through that shit again.
For sure. But maybe that was the universe putting you on the path that you're on now to do the things that we're going to talk about. That you have big plans, man. And I, having just heard this like 15 minutes ago about your idea, I think this is amazing. So let's talk about what did you do in the Marine Corps? What are some of the highlights from your career and some of the leadership lessons that you learned that you still carry with you today?
For sure. I want to say this real quick. Now I need to remember it even quicker.
Don't worry about it. It happens all the time. I do that shit on a regular basis.
So, okay, back. The universe, like you said, my mission in joining the Marine Corps, I have learned and I'm accepting, is it wasn't to go to war and fight in combat, but to come home and fight the war.
Yes.
That we're going through right now. And that's what I'm doing through my podcast and our future plans. So that's how I am changing my viewpoint of failure to success. Like, it wasn't what I joined for. Yeah, I joined to get the connections, the niche, in a sense. I joined to serve and protect and fight for my country. My cards weren't drawn to do that. And that's okay, because now I'm here able to help save people once they're done saving us.
Yeah, man.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, man.
Can you ask me your question?
Yeah, as far as like what were some of the biggest highlights of your Marine Corps career and the leadership lessons that you learned that you still use to this day to achieve what it is you're trying to achieve?
I'm actually going to take a negative first, right? And the thing that I learned to get your way is anger and aggression. And that's what I have to work through, especially when it comes to parenting. Because, like, man, my little 4-year-old, she can make me want to bring out the knife hand real quick. And then you look at that poor little innocent 4-year-old's face and you're like, what am I doing? So it's learning how leaders that you were told that weren't great leaders, that were actually the good leaders because they looked out for you. They cared about you. They cared about more than just who you are in that uniform. They cared about after. I feel that there's a lot of leaders in the world that they're not necessarily the leader you want, so you think they're bad, but they're the leader you need.
Yeah.
Right? Like, as you were telling me on my podcast about the time when you first hit the fleet, or I forget what you guys call it.
Just the unit.
When you get to
our
the unit, you were treated like shit because these guys just got back from the invasion. So God, what they seen, what they went through, plus they were probably being trained by Vietnam era guys that would just beat the fuck out of them too, right?
Yep.
That whole tangent was for a reason. I am so sorry, dude.
No, that's good, dude. It's what you were talking about, the leadership lessons you learned, and the leadership that you need is not necessarily the leadership that you think is being displayed to you at that time, right? Is that kind of where you were going with that?
Right. And then, but yeah, so they're hard on you. Now, they may have crossed the line plenty of times, but there's a reason that line is so far up there for a reason. And you just got to be able to know that. You got to see the bigger picture in things. Like, if you're only looking for why they're doing it to you in this moment, you're only going to find the negatives. Like police calling. That's just so fucking stupid. But is it? You're training yourself to find the smallest detail out of place. So when you're in country, or even if you're driving downtown Phoenix, you see shit out of place. You see a car acting suspicious, somebody coming around the corner that shouldn't be coming around the corner. It makes you aware.
Yeah.
So, like, everything has an extra meaning. Like, being hazed and beaten down sounds terrible, but especially in basic and boot camp, it was there to build you back up.
Yep.
I think there's leaders. I don't know if I always ever had a fully well-rounded leader. And I know the ones that are listening are like, you motherfucker, because there were some good ones, right? But right now I'm only thinking about the bad times, and that's not what I'm trying to bring up. Like, my one leader got to the fleet after I did, and I had an ankle injury. I fucking tore the tendons and ligaments off the bone, partially tore them in half and dislocated the ankle. They told me I sprained it. It took me 6 months of being in a boot that I couldn't put pressure on before they gave me the MRI. Anyways, our new platoon leader came down, and he had me take my foot out my boot. He's like, damn, is your calf always that fat, or is it just swollen? I was like, oh shit, this is how it's gonna go, right? But that leader fueled me to stay in shape, to stay on top of my shit. He's the one where I actually had to get taped out because I didn't make weight. And as soon as I took my shirt off, he just laughed at me. He's like, holy fuck, Mac, look at your shoulders, and walked out the room because he knew I was fine. Right. But before then, he just thought I was a piece of shit, like a malingerer, like I was just playing hurt. And then I changed his mind with my intensity. And like, once I've been able to perform, I performed.
Yeah, I have a similar story. I hurt my foot and PCS up to Fort Lewis, which I didn't tell this story on your podcast, but one of the names that I dropped in your podcast was the first sergeant over there. They originally thought I was a piece of shit because I was in a boot also, and took me over to the aid station where Doc Rodriguez was, looked at the medical record and said, first sergeant, this dude's not joking. He's fucked up. But like, just that little bit of just being a new guy in a new unit, as a E5 or E6, I can't remember what it was, like, pushed me to stay in as much shape as I could, even though I was dealing with that adversity. So I completely relate to that, man.
Bro, I'd hobble to the gym on my crutches.
Yeah.
I would put my foot and boot into the bike, strap it on. I'd ride 20 miles a day. I'd hobble over. It's probably the strongest I ever was too. And I'd be asking, I couldn't carry the dumbbells, but I'd be like, hey, asking around him, dude, can you grab me those 100-pound dumbbells? And he would look at me like, bro, I can't even carry that, and you're on one foot. Like, what? But that... He wouldn't necessarily be the leader that I wanted in the time, because he's not the one. The style of appreciation that I need is to be told. I can't read between lines. Like, you do this to me, like you're flicking me off. I have no fucking clue. I'm not reading between the lines. I'm like, all right, what's up, three fingers, You
just need somebody to put it right in front of you how it is. Like, command hand, this is it, motherfucker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I don't need to be treated like shit to make me be better. Like, that ain't going to work. You're going to make me hate you and, like, fight against you.
Right.
But, yeah. He's actually a good leader, still ruffles my feathers to this day, but he's a good guy. And he was one that always looked out for us. Bro, this is an embarrassing story. We were in the back of the 7-ton, and we were backing up and doing something. I took my Kevlar off. We were in a field training. Shouldn't have taken my Kevlar off. Put it on the bench. Somehow it fell out. This motherfucker got crushed into a taco. So I show up, go to reach for my helmet. It's not there. And they read the band, and it had my name on there. I was like, fuck. It would got my letter sent back in boot camp. Now I'm the dude that got the fucking helmet ran over. But he fucking covered for me. You know, he protected me, made sure I didn't get in trouble for it, didn't have to pay for it, rat myself out now. But, you know, he brings it up still to this day.
And that's a good leader, man. Somebody to watch your back, to cover the mistakes that you're bound to make as a human, right? We're not perfect, and you're still going to make mistakes. And I think back to when I was a leader, and I think I've covered for some guys for some shit like that, like just making a stupid mistake, not thinking about it. And it's like, okay, well, we can hang them out to dry, or we can teach them a lesson here, right? Like, I think that's what was being done for you. Like, if I show you that I have your back, you'll be a better soldier for me.
Right. I think he was also keeping the old core alive as much as he could, right? Because we were handling things internally. We weren't trying to bring it to the head shed, whatever you want to call the higher ups. We were handling it internally. Now, I didn't get like fucked up for it, but I was dealt with for it, things like that.
Yeah.
But that also brings in like, I am considered new generation because he was in longer prior. So you just don't fully understand it, but you would see that he was for his guys. Whether you thought he liked you or not, if you were in his platoon, you mattered.
That's good, man. That's so awesome. So let's fast forward to the part that we really try to hammer home here on the Strategic Veteran, and let's move into your transition. What was the decision for you to get out of the Corps? You mentioned earlier that you had quote unquote checked out, and so why did you check out? What led you to check out? And let's talk about how that transition went for you.
Yeah, so truthfully, mental health had me checked out. So I was young, dumb, full of cum, married somebody I shouldn't have married, hid it up until last fucking year. Like everybody knew, but I didn't verbally tell my parents that, yeah, it was true until last year, and we've been divorced for fucking longer than we were, twice as long as we were married. So that shit, but like in that time, so not only was I hiding it from my parents, like when shit got bad, almost instantly, as you expected, I couldn't go to my parents and explain it. I didn't have anybody to reach out to. So it started like I couldn't escape home at work, which made work go downhill. So it was a tornado of shit. I couldn't escape work at home, and I couldn't escape home at work. So I was like, I need out. I need something new. I need a fresh start. I just need a restart. If you think about it, I would have got that if I stayed in. But I'm not allowing myself to think that way anymore, because that's grass is greener on the other side. Yeah. And shit could have got way worse if I stayed in. And I definitely would not have the kids I have right now if I would have stayed in. So I'm very grateful for the way it worked out. So I chose to get out. And I said I was checked out because like I was already, once you decide you're getting out, like,
it's like a party. You just like, we call it the itis, right? The
senior year itis.
Yes, that's
You're
it.
graduating. You ain't got shit left to do. They can't hold you back. They can't punish you anymore. That's what it was. I was like, oh, I'm getting all these freedoms. All the freedoms I wanted are the freedoms that I was glad that the military took away from me, because in the civilian world with those freedoms, I'm not as successful as a person as I should have been, because I was worried about my freedoms and not having a routine when my mental health and my lifestyle needs a routine.
Yeah, for sure, man. And it's so routine. Everything I do to this day, part of my problem when I got out and started my transition is I let go of all of those routines, right? Which turns into the weight gain, turns into more misery, turns into the laziness, turns into, the amalgamation of problems that we all deal with when what I call the transition hole, when you fall into that. And it's the breaking of routine, because like you said, the itis, I don't want to do PT anymore because I don't have to, because you forced me to do it. And it's like, well, that's not healthy, right? Like,
right.
Like, so
there's actually one routine that I did keep.
Which one?
Alcoholism, drinking.
And that was going to be my next question. So, was alcohol your vice during the transition? Was that was that your problem, or did it go further?
I like to say that once you sign on that dotted line, you become a contractual alcoholic for your time in the military.
I like that.
Because if you think, there's very few people that don't drink in the military, and at that time they were the problem. Which translates to the civilian world, because when I was on my sobriety kick, I felt like I was the problem. You're looked at differently, whether it's from the bartender to even your best fucking friend. Like, if you quit drinking and they're not on board, like, what's wrong with you? You gonna die? Like, no, but you are. Like,
it's funny to hear somebody else say that, because we talked on your show about me getting sober. But what I didn't tell you about that is, I spent a lot of time. I was drinking every night, going to the bar every night, and I had one or two friends that would hang with me every night for a while until they couldn't, and they were like, "Dude, I can't do this anymore." And then I'm going by myself. But then the minute I decided to get sober, here they come, right?
Really?
Texting and calling, like, "Hey, bro, we going out tonight? Are we gonna go get fucked up? Are we doing this? Like, it's Tuesday night. Are we going to the spot?" And it's like, I told you all I'm getting sober, and now you want to come around. And it wasn't enough for me to tell them that I was getting sober. I had to like really hammer it home, like, no, dude, I'm done, right? Like, and then they're like, "Oh, come on, why? What are you being a pussy?" Like, come on now. And so is that what you're speaking to when you talk about being?
100%. People support you to drink until you don't, and then when you don't, they like pressure you to drink, or they look like you have like a something contagious. And they don't want to be around you unless you're drinking, because you're ruining their vibe or you're ruining them. Like, dude, you're ruining yourself.
Of course. Yeah. Because alcohol is poison.
Yeah. But it's so socially acceptable that, like, it's the norm. Like, if you don't get off work and drink, what's wrong with you? And part of the reason I drink again is because, like, I'm just around people that drink, which I'm strong enough not to, but like, I'm in a vulnerable point right now, and I'm just like, I don't even fucking care anymore. Like, I'm tired of fighting against it. Let's just join them. And then I realized that is a weak ass mindset, and that's not who I am.
Right.
So I'm not going to drink because you are, and I want to be around you, or vice versa, or anything like that. If I'm going to drink, it's because I can't control the itch I have. But.
So what were some of the biggest problems in your transition? What are you dealing with? Are you dealing with the loss of purpose? Are you dealing with the loss of the camaraderie? Are you I mean, it sounds like you were in a terrible relationship, so I'm sure you're dealing with that still as well. So, like, is it all of these things? Are you figuring out childhood trauma that you haven't had to work out yet? That's surfacing. Like, what's going on?
Yo, the childhood trauma plays huge, but I wasn't aware of it until the more recent years. I've been out since 2017, and I would still say that I'm still working on the struggle and the transition. I haven't found who I truly am. I mean, I have with the podcast, but it hasn't gotten me to the spot that I know we're going. It'll be the end of this year, next year for sure, manifesting and like planning that shit out. But yeah, dude, the loss of purpose, the loss of structure. I can go out and do whatever I want, getting around the wrong people that you think were fun and all of that, experimenting with other substances. And I never got hooked on anything else. It's always been drinking, and then it was smoking, and then it was smoking, but not for the medicinal benefits. Right. It was just because like I can. Yeah.
To escape.
And
I relate to that.
That's what drinking is. Drinking is just an escape, because I liked the person I was drunk, because I didn't care about what other people thought or felt. I wasn't like analyzing everybody's response to me. I was just being me, fun, talking to anybody, saying shit that I probably should have got fucked up for a lot. But it just wasn't benefiting me.
Right. Did you have a plan getting out?
No. I didn't have a plan to get out until I was getting out. And then I was like, all right. I went in wanting to be a lifer, went through boot camp. I was like, fuck being a lifer. Like, everybody makes fun of lifers. I don't want to do that shit. To like going back and forth while I was in. To like, when shit hit the fan, I was ready to be done. So I was done. And I had no plan. I was going to become a police officer. My dumb ass was not aware that it was going to take 6+ months to become a police officer. I started the testing for a police department in California, and I was fucking passing everything easily until I got to like the question board, and they asked me 3 questions, but I was in the bro mindset. Yeah. I wasn't trying to be a buddy fucker, which would require you to follow the laws. And looking back, I answered every single question the wrong way because I wanted to seem cool and be like the one that was liked.
And not uphold the law.
Not uphold the law, right? Like the first question was like a 60-year-old couple celebrating their 40th wedding anniversary on the beach that's no drinking and they have a glass of wine. Would you let them, what would you do? Oh, I would have them pour it out, but I wouldn't give them a ticket or anything because I want the guest to have fun and enjoy their time and not hate the police. And then the second one was if you found a buddy passed out in his car while he was supposed to be working, not answering calls, what would you do? I said I would talk to him first. No, fuck no. I would fucking call everybody right away. Like, that's my life on the line. That's his life. That's everybody in the community's life. So I really fucked up because I was in the wrong mindset. Again, I gotta stop looking at it as a fuck up because I wouldn't be where I'm at today if that went through.
Right. It's a necessary step on your journey to learn the lessons that you weren't going to learn any other way, right?
Right. I think I said it earlier, is that I need to start looking at everything as a blessing. Whether I didn't get what I wanted or I got what I wanted, it's a blessing because there's a higher purpose that I'm not seeing. So if I didn't get that grant or that guest or whatever, it's a blessing because it's not the right time or not what I needed.
Yeah, man. And the universe leaves us clues, right? Or God or whoever you put your faith into spiritually, right? Like, it leaves clues. Everything is that adage, right? What is it? Everything happens for you, not to you, right?
Okay.
Like things in my life have built me and brought me to the place that I'm at now, to sit here in your studio and have a conversation with you, right? And just like you had to go through that to learn those lessons, I kind of, with the first question, I would have probably not given him a ticket either. I would have just told him to pour it out because, I feel like there's a little bit more to being a decent human in that, right? But like, if your buddy's passed out in his car and he's on shift, you're right. Like, I'm calling everybody because it's no different than, the time I was in Iraq and an entire platoon of soldiers decided to drink whiskey while they were holding down, a checkpoint. Like, you need to be hung out to dry for that because you're risking everybody's life at that point. So, no, that's amazing, man. So let's talk about, during the transition, like, did you know you wanted to get into entrepreneurship and podcasting and the path that you're on now, or how did you figure that stuff out?
Yeah, so looking back, actually, my parents were waiting for me to decide what I wanted to do because they had a small security company back in Illinois, and it was up in the air if I was going to move back home and take it over and run it or go on with my own ride. I had no desire leaving California to go back home to shovel snow. And so my brother lived out here in Arizona, and I ended up coming out here to Arizona. I feel like I always had that entrepreneur in me, like a normal 9-to-5 working for people. That's just not my speed. That's not for me. I need more excitement. I need more out of life than, like, that's that structure and routine I'm running from, right? Like, I don't want to work for somebody else to make minimum dollars and like be busting my ass missing everything while they're living their life. That's not for me.
Right.
It's always been inside me. There's always been a passion to do more. I've always been creative and I've had all these ideas. I just never had the support.
Right.
I love my parents. Great parents, did the best with what they had and what they knew. But my mom learned from her childhood to always warn you of what could go wrong, not what could go right. And so that ingrained in me that, like, why even try if you're just going to fail? Well, failure is only failure when you stop. Every other time it's just a learning lesson. So even if I had 100 companies fail by now, the 101 one would have been the one that would have made me successful anyways.
Right.
So just never give up on yourself.
So how did you land on doing a podcast? Did you try other things? Like, I fell victim to, 99% of all the guru scams on YouTube or whatever, right? I tried drop shipping. I tried Amazon FBA. I tried faceless YouTube, TikTok, any other faceless fucking shit that you can think of. I tried blogging, which definitely understand that one, and plays a huge part in growing the podcast, right? As you well know, but just wasn't for me. I'm not. I'd rather talk to people than write. So how did you land on podcasting and all of that?
Mental health. It's all mental health. So I was struggling. I was in my therapist's office, and I told her this idea I had, and I pitched it to a professional baseball player. a former player. He said basically due to liabilities, he didn't want to start calling veterans and start talking to them as like a buddy check because like, well, you know, what if something goes wrong? He was talking to them, and then he didn't know how to get their phone numbers. But I told my therapist, and she tried to strong arm me to go live in her office and trick me into going live and telling everybody on my friends list that I was going to start this podcast. I didn't end up doing that. I went home though. I promised her. I was like, I promise you, I'll go home and I'll write this, or I'll start this podcast, and that's exactly what I did. So that is me thanking my therapist. My therapist doesn't like that I use the word strong arm and that I say that, but I mean that in a compliment. The way I am, that's a compliment. Like if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be here right now. You wouldn't be here right now. So thankfully, my therapist encouraged me to start this, and it has just progressed over the last 3-4 years.
Dude, she made you get out of your own way.
100%.
Dude, I love that so much because you said trick me into, and I know that that's a compliment as you just explained, but I was thinking like, no, she was giving you the opportunity to get out of your way and start something that is clearly, I mean, like we're here doing this right now, and why do you think this is so therapeutic, and why do you think this helps your mental health? And I have my own thoughts on this, and I'd like to compare notes with you because we're in the same space.
Yeah.
And what I think is really cool about it is we're in the same space talking about the exact same things, and we're not competitors. We're here to help each other, right?
Yeah,
which to me is a beautiful thing, right?
100%.
So let's talk about like, why do you think this is so helpful?
Well, it goes back to, I like to say when we leave active duty especially, that we lose a sense of group therapy that we never knew we were going to. Because you walk out of the barracks rooms, especially when you were still in the barracks, and you, I know him, sorry, seeing his face.
It's all good, dude.
But you walk out of your barracks and you're forced to be friends or have 30 plus other men, like-minded individuals around you. So you can vent, talk, fight, do whatever you need to like get out of your own way, to get out of your head. So then you get out and now you're secluded again. A lot of that's by choice, but a lot of it is just like the distance, and you're not in the day-to-day with the people anymore. So it's a little bit harder to stay in contact. So I feel that it's just sharing stories with like-minded individuals on top of hearing and reassuring that I'm not alone, because we all have these struggles. And then thirdly, I'm learning from you even in your worst of times. So when you're doing your negative coping mechanisms, smoking, drinking, not that you self-harm, right?
Right.
Just to be clear, but isolating, shit like that. I'm learning from that, like, oh shit, okay, he's responding to this trauma or this trigger in this way. When I find myself doing that, let's pull myself out of it and do the opposite. So I'm learning from you. Plus, let's just say you tell me about manifesting or something new, a new form of therapy I haven't heard of. I get to look into something new. I get to learn. I get to try something that hasn't helped yet, or something I haven't tried yet.
Dude, that's awesome. And you've talked about it a lot. And so in addition to podcasting, what are the skills that you use to cope? Because I've heard manifestation, I've heard mindfulness. You're demonstrating your ability to reframe, right? So reframing is huge. I don't know if you participate in any kind of yoga or grounding.
Not yet.
Dude, let me tell you about that stuff, man. So I find myself now when I'm at home in my office randomly for 15 minutes, I don't set an alarm. I don't think about it. I'll just stand up, and the next place I'm at is in my backyard barefoot, walking around on the grass with the dogs. And it's incredible to me that I'm not conscious of the thought of going out to do that, right? It just happens. And then when I come back in and I sit back down at my desk, I'm 100 times more productive. I feel better. Like it's strange. So what are those tools that you're currently using, and what tools are you eventually going to add?
Well, I would love to be grounded all the time or be able to walk barefoot outside, but here in Arizona, it's a little hard at this time. Plus, we don't really have much grass here. However, so the things I do, when I'm on point, bro, I'm listening to self-help, motivational podcasts, songs like Eric Thomas, Sean Ryan, things like that. Going to the gym. When I change my diet and I'm on my carnivore diet strictly and I'm cutting out that sugar that we talk about, my mental health changes, my physical health changes, my energy levels skyrocket. I'm journaling. I just got a new book from somebody I actually want to connect you with.
I saw your
that.
Instagram post.
Yeah.
It was really quick, and I couldn't read the whole cover of the journal, but I was excited to see. I'm sure you're going to put more out about that.
So that was my marketing scheme that I've noticed on Instagram that a lot of videos are going to 1 second right now, so you could just keep doing it. That's why I did it short.
Yeah.
But yes, I will talk more about it on my podcast as well. But it's her name's Jenna Carlton. She's a Navy veteran. She created the veteran workbook, and it's to like help you work through planning the future. Obviously, I'm on day one in it now, so I'll let you know more as I get more involved in it. But journaling something new that I picked up within the last couple of months. I've always told myself I needed to journal, and I was always like, bullshit. And when I first started journaling, I didn't even know what to journal because I was in my own way.
Yeah.
Like, I have so much I want to write about until I sit down, I go to write, and I'm like, well, what am I going to do? And it started to be the same things. Like, my wife did this, I did that, I'm mad about this, or whatever. But I had to get through that. I had to fight through that sluggishness to get to the benefits of it, because once I was able to start getting things out, my mind felt clearer. Instead of having a whole bunch of spirals, they were more straight lines. I was able to get the thoughts out. I wouldn't harbor as much because I was writing them down, getting them out. So I'm sure you're aware, but the spoken word has the most power, and then like writing shit down works as well. I haven't got to the point where I burn it. I don't know if that works or it doesn't work. But yeah, dude, just writing your thoughts down.
Wait, burn it.
I've
never heard this part before.
Yeah.
Journaling for me is tough. I'm not a writer. I like voice notes. I leave myself voice notes to talk about the dumb shit that's good, like
Right.
what you're talking about. I think journaling for me is because my handwriting is so terrible. I write in pensive, if you're familiar with that, and I oftentimes can't go back and read it. And I'm not sure if the point of journaling is to go back and read it, but I know for me, I would want to go back and read it to measure my progress. Right?
You're just in your way and making an excuse not to journal if we're going to be mental health and be serious.
I think you're probably right.
Yeah, so
because I genuinely hate writing.
Right, me too. And writing 5 sentences, my hand would hurt. I'm like, oh my God, dude, I haven't wrote this long that I can't even write 5 sentences without having hand pain. But I stopped getting in my own way with those. So yeah, just start journaling. But to burning it, some people, so this is twofold. One, you don't need to go back and read it. However, it is a great tool to look at your growth. Mm-hmm. So the excuse of not being able to read it just fuck right off.
Right, because I could just use a computer and type. I was doing that earlier this year.
Or you could just not go back until you're ready to.
Right.
Because you're going to change your handwriting eventually, if that's what you want to do.
Right.
But I have heard that, yes, people will journal and then burn it, right? This is one, because maybe they don't trust who's in their house and they don't want people to read it. So they're feeling more comfortable getting their words out and not having people find it. But it's also supposed to show like a sign of like releasing and letting it go. You burnt it, or you wrote it, it's there. Burnt it, it's gone.
Doesn't
you let
exist
it go
anymore.
Yeah.
No,
I'm
like
sure there's
that.
more scientific or more reasoning behind it. That's just my take on it.
Hell yeah. No, and thanks for calling me out on the journaling thing. I know that I make excuses for it because I genuinely hate to write, but I should probably just do more of it.
Right.
Like just do more of it. So I'll probably do that today when I get back.
Until it becomes a hobby, and then you just, or not a habit.
A routine,
Yeah.
a habit, yeah.
Was that like 2 weeks at least?
I've heard anything from like 21 to 60 to 90 days. I don't know. Like if you just stop being a bitch about it, lean into your discipline, and fucking do it, it'll just be a habit.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
And to grow and become a better person, we're supposed to do things we don't like or do things that are hard. And right now, journaling's hard. You're telling me writing something on paper that you've been doing since a child is hard for you?
Yeah. Right.
Look at you. You're like a fucking Viking over there, man.
Shit. So what else are you doing besides? So journaling has really, well, you just started. That's something that you think is going to be paramount in helping you get to where you want to go. So I guess let's talk about, where are you going? Where is the JMach podcast going? What is your vision for things moving forward? This is the cool part. I think this is going to be really awesome.
Yeah, so it goes from wanting to have my own studio and taking the podcast on the road to we are becoming this generation's version of the VFW, which will be a substance-free location where veterans, police, and fire most likely will be able to go to and hang out that is substance-free. And this allows you to detox from your stressful work life before you go home to the stressors of life. Whether you're married or single, home life has a whole bunch of different stressors. To vice versa, before you go to the stressors of work, you can come here before work and then go to work. There should be a gym in there. You'll be able to work out. I want to bring like more mental health focused to the community in hopes that, like I told you earlier, we can be like the oxygen mask on an airplane. You got to put it on yourself first before you can help others around you. So I like to say us as veterans have collectively put the mental health oxygen mask on first, and now we're getting ready to spread throughout the community to help rebuild and regrow it.
Dude, and I can picture it now, like a space to just go and, like you said, work out in the morning before work or before I start my day, and have, maybe a space like a meditation room or something, like where you can just go sit and it is quiet and you're not going to get interrupted. And I really love that you're substance free, because let's be honest, you basically want to replace the VFW, and I think there inherently needs to be a ton of changes in the VFW, because have you been to a VFW, and what was your experience? Yeah, so let's talk about that, and then I'll share my experience.
It's going to be the stereotypical experience. First of all, I technically don't qualify to even get into a VFW because I'm not necessarily a veteran of a foreign war. I didn't fight in a foreign war.
I think that's bullshit, to be honest. I think VFW halls should just be for veterans in general. If you served your country, you need a club, right? Like that's really, and I say club, but a place, a space, some kind of special treatment.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to talk bad about the VFW at all, because I'm thankful for what they are, especially for who they were for, because that's all the Vietnam era veterans had, right? So at the time, they did the most with what they could, but now it's time to evolve, because I've heard this time and time again, people telling me, and this is like the same experience. First of all, you walk in, it's going to be dark, dingy, and filled with smoke.
Yep.
Everybody not everybody, but people are smoking in there enough that it's like back in the 90s where you could still smoke everywhere.
Smoking or non at the restaurants. I remember that.
Yeah. And it's almost like my favorite bar. I love hole-in-the-wall bars, right? Where I walk in and people look at me like, who the fuck's that dude? Like, leave me alone. I just want to drink. But VFW wasn't for me. I'm sure if I was still drinking heavily, I would love it, though, because I can get in there and tell my half-true war stories, too, But I think they need a facelift, in a lack of better words.
Well, and I agree with that, because I had the same experience. Dingy, smoky. They don't want you there. They really don't want our generation of veteran in there. And I was blown away by that, because I've also had experiences, particularly from Vietnam veterans, who are like, I wouldn't want to be fighting the war that you're fighting. I'm like, dude, I wouldn't want to fight the fucking war you were fighting. You were way worse than but also, do you think that the VFW is the way that it is because of the air around society, around veterans when they came home from the war, right? Like, so
back then?
Yeah, back then, right? Like getting spit on and called baby killers and just really not having any community support behind them.
I would 100% say that the VFW was therapeutic at that time. Now, it was therapy that caused a lot more trauma, because what happens when that triggered veteran drinks and goes home? He's going to beat his wife or kids or husband. Who knows if it's male or woman, right?
Right.
But that's all drinking does. Drinking makes things worse. And honestly, I was thinking about making the lounge cannabis friendly, right? But first of all, how can I choose which one's better or worse for other people?
Right.
That's your own choice to make. And then secondly, dude, if somebody's struggling, they don't need anything around. Right? Like, even if their problem was alcohol, I don't need to be around somebody that's smoking weed, because it's just another gateway. Like, I do feel like it's the lesser of the evil, yeah, because, like, when was the last time you heard a group of Marines burn down a bar because they got too high? They didn't even make it to the bar. They fell asleep on the couch, right?
Right. I agree with that, man. I think in creating a space for veterans to truly heal, which is what it sounds like you're creating, right?
Yes, sir.
Substances need to be removed from that. And we're sitting in this wonderful dispensary, and I am a huge supporter of cannabis. I'm very open about that. I'm a user of cannabis. And before my trip to Peru to do the ayahuasca, which we didn't talk about on your show, we're going to save for next time, I was using cannabis the same way I was using alcohol to escape. And what the integration and all of the work that I've done since my trip, even before the trip started, because Heroic Hearts is amazing and really takes integration seriously, but it's intentions. What intentions are you setting when you're using these substances? And so for you to be creating a space where we just don't involve substances at all, the only substance that we're going to have is you. You are the substance. You need to get addicted to you and working on you through physical fitness, through mental fitness, through spiritual fitness, through social fitness. These are the things that truly lead us to heal. And so am I kind of on the right track with what you're trying to build?
Yeah, 100%. It's all about healing while rebuilding the community around us and rebuilding our brotherhood. Right? Because you lose your sense of pride, your sense of belonging. So let's rebuild that. Let's come back together as one. And let's show. So another reason I'd like to open it up, my podcast, used to be for veterans only. Until I was in this dispensary, like advertising, standing right there, I quickly realized that everybody needs the extra reminder that they're not alone.
Yeah.
And then I started to get annoyed. How many times am I going to be told I can't do something because it's not with veterans? So you're telling me if I heal, I'm only going to be able to hang out with veterans. I'm not going to be able to go in town with the civilian or anything like that. So I opened it up to everybody. But the goal is to help veterans, so veterans, police and fire, lead the way in the mental health and the healing. And let's rebuild and regrow our community. I mean, we're all, police and fire are paramilitary. We're military. What do we like to do? Protect and serve.
Yeah.
We want to give back. We want to help out. But we feel isolated and alone, so we don't have that community to feel safe. And men don't like to process emotion. The only emotion we'll process is straight to anger.
Straight to anger, big time. Yeah. Guilty as charged. That was
for sure.
And I like what you're saying, because I've been back and forth about this show too, about opening it up to more than just veterans. And I had a conversation. It's been about 2 weeks now with somebody who means a lot to me, and He presented it to me in a way that was like, what is the word veteran? And it's like, oh, let's really think about that. You can be a veteran law enforcement agent. You can be a veteran firefighter, a veteran first responder, a veteran pilot, a veteran professional athlete. And it's like, all of those people experience some sort of transition from whatever career they were doing to not having that anymore. And, also, adding to that, it's like, I would argue our first responders probably have it a little bit more tough than we as veterans do, because they don't have near the support network that we currently have as veterans. And I, a caveat to that is, well, Adam, there's most veteran nonprofits, cater to the special operations forces. And I agree to that. There's a lopsided number of special operation forces nonprofits out there that help you with resources. But I think as time goes on, we still have more for conventional forces than law enforcement and first responders have for themselves. And so for you to open your show and create a space and aim to create a space that really gives back to that community, I commend you for that, man. That's awesome.
I don't know. I haven't done my research on this, but I was informed that the firefighter suicide rate is higher than the veteran suicide rate. It's just not talked about yet. But what I'm also learning is the reason that we feel like we can only relate to veterans, not just because of our joking, but just because we feel like we can relate due to our traumas, right? But what we don't realize is, as we talked on my show, that all of our traumas are stemmed from our childhood.
Right.
And how we react to our traumas, even in our 20s, 30s, 40s, is how we were taught or learned as a child to react and to become this person we are today. So what I'm trying to get at is that, even though the cover of our books are different, veteran, police, fire, civilian, teacher, whatever, all of our traumas and cuts and everything behind the cover,
They all come from the same place.
Yeah, and what brings us right back together.
Yeah,
brings us back to being humans.
I love that, man. I'm really going to sit with this and what you just said about opening it up to first responders and others, because I just genuinely want to help as many people as I can. It just so happens that I'm a veteran and I can relate to veterans, and veterans are easier for me to
It's our niche. Yeah. It's our safety blanket, right? Which I don't think is a bad thing. And again, I'm going to keep things for veterans only, but I'm not going to limit it. For example, you want to help people, right? So what if that civilian right there walked over to you and said, "Hey, I'm struggling. Can I be on your podcast?" You're going to tell him no because he's not a veteran?
I tried. At the beginning of the show, we tried.
Right. But I'm saying, like, you're sitting here struggling with, like, should I open it up to more people or not? And I'm trying to show you, like, your ultimate goal is to help people, not just veterans, correct?
Right. Yep.
So, like, that person's struggling and you're going to tell them, "Sorry, I can't help you. You're not a veteran." Like, I don't see that being in your heart to begin with.
It is not.
You know?
It is not.
And the thing is, you're going to get hate from veterans for doing it, and then you're going to get hate for civilians for not doing it, right? The moral of the story is you can't please everybody, but there is a pond that you're going to build for your people.
Well, you know, and to your point, yeah, I'm going to get hate from veterans, but those are the same veterans who are wallowing in their own self-pity and refuse to do any work on themselves and feel like they're entitled to somebody doing something for them. So, you know, it's not a secret on this show, like I have an affinity and a special place in my heart for veterans, but if you're the type of veteran that I just described, get out of your own fucking way, do something about it, because you're the only person who can do something about it. And you would be the one that would be mad at me for opening this show to others who want to heal as well.
And you're not even trying to heal yourself, so why are you mad about me trying to help heal people?
Right.
Which is another reason I love sharing stories from the CEO to the janitor and everybody in between, right? Because that motherfucker that's going to give you shit, you may look up like, "Dude, you're a badass. Like, you're strong. You don't struggle." Nah, he's struggling the most. He's just hiding it. When he goes home, he's taking it out on whoever's at home with them and himself.
Yeah.
Right? So when somebody's talking shit to you, you got to remember that it's probably their inner feelings and inner insecurities that are coming out that they're projecting onto you. And they are probably hurting way more than you are, but they don't have the testicular fortitude, the bravery to step up and say, "Hey, I need help. Hey, I'm hurting," or to seek that help. They would rather, like I said earlier, hurt people hurt people. So if they're hurting, they're going to try to make you hurt.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right, man. What advice do you have for veterans who are about to transition so that they can avoid falling so far down into that transition hole? Where would you tell them to start? Because I don't know what it was called when you got out in 2017, or even in the Marine Corps. When I got out, it was called ACAP. In the Army now, I think it's called SFL TAP. Maybe that's military-wide. I don't know. But
TRS, Transition Readiness School. It was like death by PowerPoints. They taught you how to put your name on a resume, and that was about it.
It's a pretty shit program,
Correct.
Right? So you know, I'll just give you some sample advice that's been given on this podcast. You know, sometimes people will say start 18 months before you get out and really do your research and have a solid plan. Some people say, most people say a year. You know, and you really need to like start building your network, is really common advice that's given on here. The most common advice that's given on here is if you're waiting till 6 months out when you start ACAPing, you're absolutely wrong. Like you're in for a world of hurt because you just don't understand and can't comprehend how difficult it is when you get out. And you know, I'm learning this just through the work that I'm doing, you know, on the side behind the scenes with other veterans who are transitioning. I have a 30-year Sergeant Major who comes to me for advice because he is struggling so much in that transition. And, you know, nobody's immune from it. Like, you cannot understand it until you've been there. I've been there. JMach has been there. You know, like, we're here to help you with this. So
I'm still figuring it out. I've been out since 2017, right? So the most important thing is pre and proper planning for sure, and I failed at that. I was going to lead in with 6 months, but you're right. Like, 6 months is like bare minimum. Like, you're white knuckling it. I don't know if you're going to make it through. A year, probably best. Definitely get a plan and have a backup plan, but have a plan. Man.
What should that plan look like? That's the real question.
Where you want to career. First and foremost, career. And how you're going to get there, hopefully, as soon as you sign that contract out. Man, there's so many things I want to say. I'm going to lose them all. But let's say you don't have a plan. get a plan as soon as possible, because the longer you go without a plan, the harder it is going to be to get back into the game. So as soon as you get out, start fucking running. Don't take, maybe take a week, 2 weeks off to like have that lull, that break, especially if you have terminal leave and you're still getting that paycheck, but have your shit figured out. Don't wait a month or two before you start looking for a job, because it's going to be so much harder. You're not going to want to take any job. You already don't want to take any job.
Yeah, I don't know how you felt when you got out, but like when I started looking at corporate careers, I was like, this is fucking boring. Like none of that stuff resonate. And even today, I play around. There's a guy in my network on LinkedIn, and I used his resume tool just to give him feedback and play with it and see how cool it was. And I started looking at these jobs, and I'm just like, none of this resonates with me. And then even I don't understand, but they like list all these requirements for an entry-level job, and it's like you need 75 years of experience, and it's like who for an entry level, like,
for sure.
You know, did you feel the same way?
To be honest, I even felt that way going into the Marine Corps. Like none of these jobs seemed fun or cool until I heard about blowing shit up, and I just got lucky to be in that portion of it, right? I was like, if I don't have this job, there's nothing I really want to do in the military, although intelligence sounds pretty cool.
Right.
But yeah, in the civilian world, man, I go back to just wanting to be in law enforcement, but for a reason that didn't happen, and I'm viewing that reason as a blessing.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, getting out was a struggle with no plan, but also two major things that you need to do. One, if you can, get your VA benefits started, or the process of like going through your appointments and check-ins before you get out of the military. And don't let your senior leaders or people you look up to in the military tell you, don't be a bitch, don't do that shit. Fuck them, because they're either going to get on it as soon as they get out, or they're going to wait 20 years being miserable and then getting on it. Right? So just get that shit started right away, because you have the most help. If you're trying to figure out the VA system on your own, you're going to be lost. And it's so much easier. I got blessed and I was able to do it right at the end. So I had a rating like right when I got out or shortly after I got out.
Yeah, I'm with you. There's no excuse for you not to be working on your benefits. I don't care how long you've been out. You're entitled to those. It's just a waiting game. That's the hardest part about it. It's filling out paperwork and playing the red tape game, but you have no excuse not to do it.
Absolutely.
I don't care what your excuse is. The only excuse, well, the only reason you're not doing it is because you're lazy and you're hamstringing yourself. You're missing an opportunity for free money.
Absolutely. And your body, I mean, the way your body feels, it's not free money anymore, you know?
That's very true.
But I get what you're saying 100%. Also, look at the benefits that you can use. Well, first of all, go to medical. Even when they're telling you not to go to medical, don't be weak. Get everything documented. Whether you just want to get it documented and you don't even want treatment for it, just go get seen.
Yep.
Let that be in your record book. It's going to make life easier as well. And then also, there's also opportunities within the military. I want to say it's called Skill Bridge. I'm not sure if you've heard
Skill
of it.
Bridge is a new program, yeah.
Yeah, that is a program that I had a buddy get into as I was getting out, and he set himself up for success. He got sent his last couple of months to become a welder, and he was getting paid his military paycheck, living in the barracks still, but going to the schooling instead of going to whatever his military job was. And now he's out and he has a union welding job, I believe it is. So he set himself up successfully. And those are paid programs through the government. So check into that, because there's different options. I'm pretty sure any business that you can get into afterwards will have a Skill Bridge partner.
Yeah, I think right now there's like 12 tracks that you can go. So like UI, UX, sales, Salesforce, There's a whole bunch, because that's how I actually got my break with the podcast. Was I got to present at Allegiant Vets Skill Bridge. They do every Tuesday. They have different presenters. Really what they are is they're just recruiters for these different corporations. But I had a really good time presenting to these veterans who didn't know entrepreneurship was an option and were just really curious, like that they could build something that was their own, because that's never been presented to them before.
Right.
And so it's funny that you bring up SkillBridge, because that's like my long-term vision for the strategic veteran is I want it to be a SkillBridge program for,
That'd be cool.
the last 6 months of their career. They can learn fundamentals of digital entrepreneurship, email lists, marketing, how I've built what I've built, I can teach back to them. And it's not unreasonable for them, in a 6-month time period to have a really, really good head start, if not being profitable, maybe not replacing their income, but profitable, with a side hustle or a digital business.
I think I'm going to be your first student. You just don't know it yet, all right?
Dude, let's do it, man.
No. For sure. Yeah, because like you said earlier, like we're in the same space doing the same thing, but we're not competitors.
No.
Like, I don't see what's the point of hating somebody. Like, you have followers that some will like me, some won't like me, and vice versa. Like, we can just help each other grow. Because at the end of the day, you're not taking anything out of my book. You're actually adding to it because we're helping save other people.
And there's plenty to go around, man. I don't need all of it, right? Like the more, and this is what I've learned, and this is where I get pretty woo-woo. Like, I truly believe the more good you put out into the universe, the more that comes back to you in every form out there, right? Like, I've gotten incredible opportunities in the last year just from putting myself out there and being a decent human to other people. I haven't taken a dime for any of the people that I've coached, for any of the hours and hours of just helping them through whatever they're going through. I honestly never even thought about charging them. I don't want to charge them, right? That's like a downfall in business, right? So you have to figure out how to make money elsewhere, right? And something that's, doesn't make you feel like a scumbag or whatever. Because for me, whether anybody realizes it or not, and we said this on your show, like doing this podcast, I learn from you, but I also get to work on myself, right? Doing free coaching where I help veterans in their transition, practicing what I preach and living the things that I'm asking them to do is growth for me as well. And it's such a beautiful thing. We don't have to be enemies. Like, if somebody came to me tomorrow and said, I want to start a podcast, okay, great. Let me tell you everything I know about how to start a podcast, and good luck to you.
Right.
Now, if you pass me, I might be a little butthurt. You know what I mean? But like, I'm not going to be jealous or whatever. I'm just going to be like, okay, well, what the fuck did they do that I need to do better, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, man, we don't need to be enemies because we can get more if we work together and help each other.
Yeah, the whole purpose of my mission is to just reunite and bring us back together as a community. Because I feel like with everything that's going on in the world, it's made to divide us, and it's just dividing us even more. But if you realize it, the more that we become closer and share, the stronger we are.
Yeah, it's
We're
incredible.
not going to dive into that, though.
Oh, man. Tell everybody where they can find you at if they're interested in being a guest on your podcast, if they're ready to come tell their story and answer the hard questions. Tell them how they can find you.
Yeah, absolutely. You can find me on like all streaming platforms: YouTube, Spotify, Amazon, Google. Is Amazon the one? Google's no more? All right, Google's no more. I was waiting for his head nod. But yeah, Amazon, Spotify, all the streaming sources at JMach Podcast. All one word, it's JMach Podcast. You'll find me everywhere. And I'd love to have you on the story, civilian, veteran, 4 years, 1 year, 20 years. I want to hear your story. I want to learn from you. But most importantly, I just want to remind you that you're not alone and we all have our struggles.
Dude, what's one last thing you want to leave the audience with before we get you out of here?
Yeah, for sure. Self-love is everything. The people that are assholes and you think are tough is because they hate themselves. They don't love themselves, right? Not that I was that asshole, but I am still an asshole, right? But I've been working on my self-love a lot. I have to tell myself I love myself to the point when I first started, it felt like I was just fucking lying to myself and I was going through the motions. But as those motions come true, my life is getting better. You said something earlier about not manifesting, but the more you put out in the universe of doing good, I want to bring back to you. Do you feel like that is like because you are manifesting it and that's all you're focused on is doing better, so you're only seeing the better even in the negative?
I don't know if I've really thought about it like that. I just look at it like I want to be the best human being I can to other human beings. And so that's just what I try to do. And I'm not perfect. I still have my issues, right? Like the Uber driver on the way over here, she was driving me nuts, and I had to exercise my patience and realize, like, okay, you're not the old you. So you can't say what is inherently running through your head right now. A quick reframe. I engaged in the conversation and I got through the ride, and, realizing that she's just on her journey, but I could have handled it differently. And I think the universe would have punished me if I did.
Right. And the last thing to say is show up for yourself, dude. Every time you make a promise to yourself, follow through with it, because your subconscious remembers and keeps score, right? So if you tell yourself you're going to get up and go to the gym, you better get your ass to the gym, or else you're going to pay for it without even knowing it later. You want to go do something, you do it. You're going to wake up at 6. If you choose to stay up till 3, you still better wake up at 6, because you made that promise to yourself. And if you don't believe in yourself, nobody's going to believe in yourself.
I love it, man. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you JMach. Don't forget to like, rate, review, subscribe. If you're interested in being a part of QRF Up and what we're doing, reach out to me, and also share this with everybody you can so we can hit 1 million veterans before I turn 40 on May 9th, 2025. Take care, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Hey, thanks for having me, Brilliant.
Yeah, man. Thanks for all of this, dude. It's been a great experience. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Glad you enjoyed it.
That's our show, and I'm truly thankful you've joined us at The Strategic Veteran. If our conversation today sparked curiosity, or if you're ready to elevate your game, I'm here to help. Visit thestrategicveteran.com for exclusive show notes and resources, or to book a coaching session directly with me. Take a moment to subscribe to our podcast and share your review. Your support makes all the difference. For more insights and daily strategies, let's connect on LinkedIn and keep the conversation going. Remember, this isn't just a podcast, it's your strategic advantage in action. Until our next rendezvous, stay bold and continue the mission.